Hi everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel, and welcome back to another match preview. It's the final home game of the season. It's against Brighton, and we will be previewing it for the last time of the season. I'm Scott, I am your host for this one, and this week we're all wearing the same kit. This wasn't planned, but me and Joe ended up on the same one, so Daryl and Nichol got involved. Yep, I am Scott, I'm your host for this one, and I am joined by Daryl, Joe, and Nichol. Boys, how are we all feeling going into the last home game of the season? Daryl, mate, I will start with you. Are we anxious? Are we getting European jitters? Have we got the passport out the drawer yet?
Do you know what it is? I'm actually a little bit sad that it's just a sign that the season's coming to an end. I know we've had our ups and downs this year, but it's been a season that's been packed full of memories and unforgettable memories at that. And again, we just need to go out on a high, really, and just make sure we're pit Man United and Chelsea to that extra Europe spot.
We do. And Joe, mate, obviously you've got the Champions League badge on the sleeve, as everyone else has, apart from me. I can't get that in Amsterdam. Yeah, my sleeves are bare. For those on audio, we are wearing the blue third kit. But Joe, mate,
yes,
the season's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's been a very enjoyable ride at times. But we're coming to the end of it. We've still got 3 games left, but from the home, from the time at St James's Park. But how are you feeling going into this final home game?
Oh, I'm feeling a mixture of emotions because you know what it is. I look back on the game against Brighton this time last season, second last home game. We just needed to get 4 points against them and less to confirm Champions League. We battered them, I think, 4-1, if I remember correctly in the end, something like that. God, that doesn't feel like long time ago at all, but here we are. We've had an absolutely unbelievable season. I mean, yeah, for all we've struggled at times and for all we've had these challenges, like you can't not look at this entire season as a whole and think it was anything less than absolutely spectacular. And we've had some incredible memories. We've beaten PSG. We've gone to the San Siro and we've taken a point. We've gotten this close to getting through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. We've beat Sunderland for the first time in a decade. Not because of our fault, because they're shit. But we've had so many good times, and yes, this season has been a little bit of what ifs, maybes. We could have gotten a little bit further, but this has been a season of first for pretty much everyone associated with the club, and for everything that we've had to deal with and everything that we've had to go through. It's like you say, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a good season. Yes, there is a part of me that's looking forward to it ending so we can regroup in the summer, get some of the injured lads back and go again in August, hopefully with a couple of new signings and, Tonali coming back. But I don't want to wish the season away just yet. I think it's got a lot to offer, and this last home game is going to be, I think, a really good one for us. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the lads signing off in style.
Yeah, Nichol, do you echo Joe's opinions there on the season, and are you looking forward to the end of the season, or do you want it to continue and will never end? Maybe you're going to Japan, maybe you're going to Australia. I don't know. You haven't told us your plans for the summer.
Neither of them. I think I probably echo a bit of both. I think starting with Daryl, I think a bit sad that this is the last home game. We've been treated to some really good home games this season. Scored in every single one this season, I think. So we've had definitely value for money out of our season tickets this year. It's been really enjoyable going, and very much looking forward to the game on Saturday. Really, just to not as for the game as well, but also just to give the lads a good send off. I'm sure they'll be doing a lap of honour at the end, which will be good as well. And then just give them a good send off for the last 2 games, which are obviously away.
Yeah, well, we will take our eyes towards that final home game. But before we do that, as always, here's a little message from our sponsor. The GallowgateShots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. So, as I've already mentioned, it is the final home game of the season. It is against Brighton and Hove Albion, to give them their birth name. It's on Saturday, the 11th of May. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff. It's not on telly for the third week in a row. What is going on there, Sky? How we're sorted out. Brighton, for their standards, I'm going to say they're not doing too well this season. They're 11th in the league on 47 points. You'd expect them to be a bit higher, to be honest. They're Brighton. They're a decent side. They're on 47 points. Like I've said, that's 12 wins, 11 draws, and 12 losses. Maybe they're going to end the season on a 12-12-12, but I don't think that's possible. And they're on a -4 goal difference. That's 53 goals scored and 57 conceded. Their last 5, they've got 1 win, 1 draw, and 3 defeats. Their last game was a victory against Villa, which was actually a pretty good game. That was at home. And then they've drew against Burnley, and their 3 defeats were against City. Sorry, yeah, I've got this wrong here, because I've got City, Burnley, and Arsenal. So I can't remember who their draw was. I've written that down wrong. I apologise. Their draw was maybe not against Burnley.
Draw was against Burnley. The loss against Bournemouth and City.
Bournemouth.
And
I've written down the wrong B. Bournemouth and Burnley. There you go. Thank you, Joe. Got a few commentator stats before we get into everything. So Brighton are looking to complete the league double against Newcastle for the 3rd time in their history. They previously did that in the 2020-21 Premier League season, and then all the way back in the 1978-79 second tier season. So that would have been what, the old Division 2, I'm going to say there. Newcastle have scored at least 4 goals in 9 different Premier League games this season. The only time they've done that was in the 1895-96 season in the second tier. That's the last time they've done so in league games in a single campaign. And Newcastle have scored in 78 Premier League. Newcastle have scored 78 Premier League goals this season. This is the second highest tally in a single campaign. 1993-94 is the highest with 82, but this is their highest ever in a 38-game top-flight season. And finally, Newcastle have scored in all 18 Premier League home games so far this season, as Nichol mentioned earlier. They last scored in 100% of their home league fixtures in a single campaign way back in 1982-83, and the last time they did it in the top flight was in 1958-1959. So lots of records to match, break, and smash through if we do beat Brighton. Daryl, mate, Brighton's away form, it's pretty honking this season. I'm going to go through some Brighton results away. So I have a 3-0 defeat to Burnley, 2-1 defeat to Liverpool, 4-0 to Roma, all being in the was it the UEFA Cup they got in, or was it the conference? I can't remember which one they were in. 3-0 to Fulham, 1-0 to Wolves in the FA Cup, 2-1 to Spurs, 4-0 to Luton. The last away win was in February against Sheffield United, but let's be honest, pretty much everyone's beat Sheffield United away. No offense, Sheffield, but you haven't been that great this season.
I think they had 10 men as well.
I think they did have 10 men. And you've got to go all the way back to November, where they last won away, and that was against Nottingham Forest. So you look at their away form. They have had a few draws in that as well. I just picked out the defeats. They're not great away. Is that a good omen? Is that something you're going to we've got to capture and maybe take into this and hopefully get something out of this?
Yeah, I think you do. Just to add to what you said there, Scott, they've actually only won 4 away games all season. And to add to those games against Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest in the league, you've got the wins at Man United and at Wolves on top of that. So when you're only winning 4 of your away games in the season, it really does spell trouble for that away form. And again, since they beat Sheffield United away from home back in February, it's 3 losses and 2 draws, and they've only scored 2 goals in those games as well. So they really, really are struggling away from home. And I think from everything that I've read about Brighton and seen in that, I think they've put a lot of this season's struggles down to their participation in the Europa League. It's really hampered. And not really to the point where other teams have struggled in the past, even ourselves, where you've ended up flirting with relegation and only just surviving domestically. But, they for their standards, have struggled. And for us with our home record, and that, a good home record versus a bad away record is something that you really should be going and looking to capitalise on.
It does. And Joe, I think we've seen with Brighton when they played away, they kind of start quite slow. They seem to start the games really, really slow, and I think that's something that we can maybe catch them off, because we're quite notorious at home to maybe have quite a quick start. Not of late. I think a couple of our games have been, at home, we've been maybe a bit sluggish and maybe been caught a bit off guard. But you look at certainly the Spurs game and a few other games where we've come out the blocks and we've really attacked teams. I think that's the kind of game plan we have to go pretty out with, against Brighton, and maybe look to get a few early goals and maybe kill the game off in the first half.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Liverpool game earlier on in the season. I know people don't really want to think about what happened at the end, but if you think of that first half, for a Liverpool team who have been notorious in the past under Klopp for having that high press, for having that intensity levels, having the high press, we literally outplayed them in every respect during that first half. And like you say, we've shown it time and time again against some of these top sides who have really athletic, strong players. Yes, we do have some out at the minute, but Gordon's in form, Isak's in form. Barnes may either start or come off the bench, but you've got these players with pace, and that's the important thing. I look at some of their centre backs. I mean, Lewis Dunk, who good centre back, not the fastest. If you can get in behind him, you're laughing. I watched the highlights of some of Brighton's recent games. I'm thinking of the likes of Burnley, Bournemouth. The amount of times that their wings were able to get in behind and get some dangerous balls into the 6-yard box or within 12 yards, it was astounding how often that happened. And you think about Wilson being a poacher, playing as the all-out number 9, potentially Isak on the wing or drifting inside, and obviously you got Gordon, as I mentioned earlier. These are all things that are playing in our favour. We're not a team that crosses the ball in very often. We like to try and get in those through passes and getting those killer balls for, like I say, a Wilson to get on the end of. And I think that's really going to play into our hands, the way that Brighton are leaking at the back. Now, yes, I think looking at some of Brighton's recent games, they do tend to, when they do score a little bit later on. So we just need to be wary of that. We've been our own worst enemy throughout the season when it's come to conceding late goals. But I really like the way that we've been managing the situation in the game plan in recent times. We're seeing more sturdy at the back, even with the likes of, Schär out and Trippier out. We seem to have that defensive solidity from the front all the way to the back four. So I'm feeling a lot more confident that we can manage and see this game out if we get ahead by 1 or 2 goals. Obviously, we've got in us to get 2-3-0 up by halftime if we're on our game. So yeah, and especially at home, we're an absolute force, an absolute beast at home. So I'm feeling confident. I think Brighton, with their injuries, I mean, we're going to go into that in more detail, but their injuries are really hurting them the same way they're hurting us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Nichol, we do have to give Brighton the respect that they are due. They are a good side. They can hurt us. We only have to look at the game last week against Villa. They were arguably the better side against Villa. It was at home. And, and you can't say, their away form isn't great. Our away form wasn't great. And look what we did last week. We were pretty good after that first 15 minutes. And you could argue, that away form is temporary. It could all go out the window at the weekend. We could see a different Brighton turn up. We could see them take a lot from that game at the weekend and bring it into St. James's Park and catch us off guard.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, they played really well against Villa and probably should have had more than one goal. So I'm sure they'll probably be looking to build on that performance last week. And then it's a big week for everyone in the league, really, to be honest. But as far as we're concerned, we do just need to start the game quickly, as we've mentioned. It's a massive week for us. If we can get 3 points Saturday. If we can get 3 points on Saturday and then take that into Old Trafford on the Wednesday, that would be huge for us. It would give us a big boost before that big away game. I know we've mentioned on the podcast previously that we're viewing that as almost like our cup final for the rest of the season, and then it almost might take the pressure off the following Saturday at Brentford. So yeah, it's a massive game for us, but we do need to start this game quick and sort of impose ourselves onto them. And I'm sure the crowd will be behind them on Saturday, and that can hopefully get a couple of early goals as you said, and then push on from there.
Yeah, Daryl, we'll take a little look at obviously the last time around.
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned that Brighton are looking to complete the league double this season. They did beat us in the away, and like I've said, our away form has been pretty bad, similar to theirs. But obviously this time last season we played Brighton at a very similar time at St James's, very similar circumstances. We were going for European football, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that game earlier this season down at the Amex that I was there for as well was an absolute horror, an absolute nightmare to watch. We really did not turn up that day. We were absolutely woeful. And for it being so early in the season, it was good to get that out of the system there and then. And I know we're going to get onto the injuries, but the person that really tore us to shreds that day isn't going to be featuring this weekend, and that's Evan Ferguson with his hat-trick performance down at the Amex, and then Callum Wilson with a very, very late consolation in the 93rd minute of that game. And just to reflect back on the game last season at St James's, yeah, you're right, it's just shy of a year since we played that game on the 18th of May, and a game that we were very it ended up being very comfortable for us in the end. We had 2 late goals, but we were very comfortable in the game all round. You had Dennis Undav scoring an own goal to kick off the scoring for us. Then Dan Burn right at the end of the first half in stoppage time getting a second. Then Undav turned from 0 to hero by getting an equaliser. Not an equaliser, a goal. A goal back for Brighton there in the 51st, and then obviously right at the end you had Wilson in 89, and then Bruno in the 91st minute. So a game
was that when Bruno did about 15 different celebrations at the end?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
on the
yes, it did. Yeah, he had everything going, and then the little A for Arthur at the end. Yeah,
at the end.
And yeah, so I mean, that game was crucial to us, as you say, Scott, in our push for Champions League football, and it put us within 3 points of securing it. And then obviously we went into that following game against Leicester and just absolutely did it in style. And as you know, this season and the rest of that is history. And just to add, with that game and then the game from the previous season, which we also won at St James's Park, we're now looking for our 3rd consecutive home win against Brighton. That's for the first time in the club's history that we're going for that record. We've only managed 2 previously, and that's up until now, pretty much. And I think there was a stint in the 80s where we won a couple of home games against them as well. And then obviously for Brighton's record at St James's Park, and I've got the 2 lots here because I want to have it as all time and as just in the Premier League. So we'll start with the Premier League one first. Just in the Premier League, we've had 6 games at home to Brighton, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. So it's all quite even on that front. But when you go and extend that to all time, you add another 10 games onto that total of games to 16, and 7 wins, 3 draws, and 6 losses. So it's very much skewed in our favour in that, and it's going to be a good one, I think.
It should be. Joe, we've mentioned a couple of players that are out for Brighton. I'm going to run through a list of injuries. I think they've got 9 players out. Although I think in the last press conference they were talking about having 10 out, but I only counted 9 on the Premier injuries. You've got Solly Marsh. Daryl already mentioned Ferguson. Is it Hinchelwood, Estepinian, Mitoma, Lamptey, Milner, Van Heck, and Lallana? I mean, there's no surprise that Lallana's injured. I think he's always out injured, but there's some big names there. You look at Estepinian, who is probably one of the best left backs in the country. He's left back or right back? Right back, sorry, in the league at the moment. And Mitoma, we all know how he can affect games. He's arguably one of their best players. Solly Marsh seems to be playing forever for Brighton, and he always comes up. And then obviously we know what Ferguson did in the reverse fixture with his hat trick. There's some huge names there that they have missing. And I know you said last week you've got no sympathy for teams with players, but you've got to look at that and just think they're on, that's 9 players. That's nearly a whole team of players. That's something that we, again, should be looking at and going, decent. Yeah, we'll take that. We know what that's all about. And we can use that to our advantage again.
I think, I mean, I do think that looking at the injuries that they've had and the drop-off that they've had, it goes to show how quite easily it can happen to teams, and we have to count ourselves very fortunate that we haven't had the same style of drop-off that they've had. But I mean, like you say, just because they've got those players out, they still do carry a threat. That Adingra, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's been really good for them. He's got that flair. He reminds me a little bit of Semenyo that plays for Bournemouth, where he's able to come inside, cut out on the right, and when you look at obviously Dan Burn, he's good, but turn of pace, will he be protected by the likes of Lewis Hall? He needs that. But yeah, they do still have some dangerous players. Pedro, he's got 9 goals, I think, in the league for them this season. Top scorer, still carries a threat. Danny Welbeck, experienced. Yeah, okay, might not be top of his game, but these are still players that can really, really hurt you, as was said before. So yeah, they got injuries, but they're still good. They'll still pose a threat.
They have got a good squad. They've got goal scorers in that squad as well. We'll turn our attention to Newcastle, Nichol, and obviously there's been a few rumours of it's nice to talk about players returning, but we do have to obviously talk about one of the big elephants in the room, and there's potential rumours of Callum Wilson triggering a hamstring injury again. We don't know whether it's true or not, but we have to touch on this because, again, as always, and I have to say this every week, I might just have a little button that I press that says this, but we are recording this before Eddie Howe records his press conference. I might just have a button next season to hit when this happens. But, we hope this isn't true, but that could be pretty devastating when it comes to the build-up to this and to the build-up to the next 3 games of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for what it's worth, Eddie Howe's press conference, he could say he's injured. And
that's true.
Turn up on Saturday. But yeah, I think that would be a real shame if that's true. Obviously, for him personally as well, because he's just come back in the team. He came off the bench the week before, got a goal, then started last week, and he scored again. So he's back in his rhythm, and he got a start. And it was great to actually see him and Isak up front together. Last week, and clearly by the amount of goals it worked. So it was also good. On the first goal, Isak missed it, and then Wilson was there to put it in. So obviously, if he's not there, then we don't have that option as much. And we're probably likely to see, I would guess, if Callum Wilson is injured, it would be Gordon and Murphy. I would guess, because he seems to be favouring Jacob Murphy. And to be fair, in the last couple of games, he has got a few assists, so I can see why he's continuing to pick him. But yeah, it would be a massive blow for him and the team, really, if he is injured.
It would be. I mean, we have got a few players returning, Daryl, and we've seen a few bench returns. One for Joe Linton, and we mentioned Callum Wilson. Obviously, Harvey Barnes is coming back as well. Well, he's been back. He's had a few bench returns. But there's talk of Kieran Trippier. Obviously, he's been off to Dubai, do some training with one of the physios. He wasn't off gallivanting for a new club, as the rumours was talking about. He has been with a physio. But the talk was he's back for the Brighton game, and last we heard, and obviously this is the Brighton game. So, if he is back, you wouldn't expect him to come straight back into the squad for the Brighton game, but he'd at least be on the bench. The questions are around Trippier, around Nick Pope, around Joe Linton. Do they come back in? Do they have the bench? What do you do with these type of players?
Well, for me, for a start, I think I don't want to start Joe Linton just yet. I would put him again. I would have the 3 of them, in Miggy included. I would have the 3 of them back on the bench, and if Trippier is available for selection, then put him on the bench as well. Just have him there as the backup and ease them back in gently, because I think we've got 2 big games to come after this where we'll need them a lot more. Just to jump ahead a little bit, I have a funny feeling that we'll see Joe Linton on the starting lineup for the game at Old Trafford, just so he can start battering people and taking out Casemiro and all that, and sending him into retirement and all sorts of things.
All right, so I think calm down.
so yeah, just for this one against Brighton, I think if whoever's back and whoever's available, get them on the bench, and let's just threaten them with a strong bench and have that luxury to bring these players on if we need to. I think the lads that are coming out there and starting games at present have been doing a fantastic job with recent form. And yeah, I mean, the Wilson thing would hurt, but again, we've got an informed Alex Isak, so we don't need to worry too much about that. And again, there's a threat there. We have a threat across the pitch, so there's goals in this team, so it doesn't really concern me too much.
And also, if let's just assume Wilson isn't injured as well, and you start up top and you play it 4-4-2, like good old fashioned football as it should be. You've got two centre mids in there, so we'll play with Bruno and Longstaff. So you've got to think about that relationship and how it's actually going to function. And if you've got, say, just for argument's sake, you take Longstaff out the team and you put Joe Litton in along with Bruno, is that going to offer enough? I don't know. Is that going to completely change the dynamic of how the team plays? Because Joe Litton does like to go on these bombing runs and go forward. Yeah, fair enough. Longstaff did score last week by doing the same thing, but is that going to maybe change things up a little bit too much for Eddie Howe? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, he could end up sticking Isak back on the left wing and play more of a 4-3-3 as he has in the past, and play the likes of all three of Longstaff, Joe Litton, and Bruno. But I agree with you, Daryl, man. I think we need that strong bench. I think it's still a little bit too early to bring these players straight back in. We don't need to necessarily.
Yeah.
This is obviously assuming Wilson's fit enough so we can play this formation. But I think get that strong bench in, show what they can do off it, and like you say, you've got that midweek game to rest some of those players and bring these in properly from the start. So now I'm with Daryl. I think that's probably how it's going to go.
Yeah,
I suppose the question is, Joe, can you play 4-4-2 against Brighton, or do you have to go back to the 4-3-3 formation where you've got a bit more cover, in that middle of the park?
Yeah,
because Brighton have got players that can hurt you on the break.
I know that's the question. You got to be careful. I mean, some fans will argue that Eddie Howe is stuck with the same sort of formation that's worked from the game last time out. I mean, Spurs going into Palace is a classic example. So will he fall into the same trap potentially of going, this worked really well, this will go again? To be honest with you, I don't think Eddie Howe is that tactically naive. I think he's very astute, and I think he's not that kind of person. But just based on the empirical evidence we saw a couple of weeks back, it does make you question things. But it's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not Eddie Howe. I'm just a bloke talking to you guys about football. So if I had the answers to that, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I think I was just going to say that I think also, based on the evidence, we've won 4 out of the last 5 with the lads that are playing now. So why change it if it's not broken? And also, what kind of message does that send to them if as soon as the other ones are coming back, that they get dropped straight away? I think of Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento, fullbacks, they've been doing brilliantly in the last few games. So if one of them was to be instantly dropped for Trippier, then I wouldn't necessarily think that was fair on them. I
would say that's maybe countered a little bit by the fact we have a midweek game, which might help with the argument to say, we're resting you so you can be fit for Wednesday. But I mean, I do honestly think Eddie Howe will pick the strongest team that he possibly can, regardless. So
he knows best. He's got them 15 tactics boards in his office.
15 tactic boards. He doesn't use any of them for.
Well, before we go to our predictions, it is time for Ref Watch once again. So Daryl, mate, who is the man in charge this week for the final home game? I haven't said that enough. Have I mentioned it's the final home game? I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but it's the final home game, at St. James's Park this season. So who is the man in charge, Daryl? Take it away for Ref Watch.
Okay, so the man in charge for our final home game of the 2023-24 season is Darren England from Doncaster. He's formerly one of the best assistant referees in the country. I believe he's refereed at World Cups and European Championships and plenty of Champions League games as well. It's actually only his second Newcastle game of the season, the previous one being the 1-0 defeat at Luton. And his record in the Premier League this season, now that he's a man in the middle, he's had 11 games in the Premier League this season, 51 yellow cards and 2 reds. So I think he's probably just above the average on yellow cards per game. And VAR for this one is Andy Madley. Now, if people might remember a few weeks ago when we previewed, I can't remember which fixture it was now, I mentioned something about him, and I don't need to mention it again. If you want to see what I said, just go back to the old one and have a look, because I don't want to repeat it. So that's the 2 boys who are going to be taking charge of this one. So we'll see what happens. I think we'll probably not have the same fate as we had at Luton. I think we're a much better side now.
Well, we're going to find out now, because we're going to come to our predictions. I came to you first last time, so I'll not do that again. I'll not put you on the spot. Nichol, mate, let's come to you. What's your prediction for this one?
I was going to say as a joke, let's just say we've scored in every home game this season. It's going to be 0-0 this week. I'm not going to say that. No, I don't think so. No, I'm not, man. I think we're going to win 3-1. I think we're going to win 3-1.
Nice.
And based off the fact that hopefully Callum Wilson is fit, I think he's going to get one. I think Alexander Isak will get one. Obviously, add to his tally. He might get that golden boot this season if he keeps going and Haaland stops.
Not if it's 3-1. Yeah, Haaland stopped, yeah.
And then third goal, we'll have a Bruno one again against Brighton.
Nice.
And for them, we'll go with João Pedro.
I don't know what away goal scorers too.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to go.
Get it all on here.
I'm going to go that we go 1-0 up, and then they get one back, and then we score 2 in the second half. There we go.
There we go. Daryl, mate, we'll come to you next. What's your prediction?
Well, I'm actually in complete agreement with Nichol there. I think we'll just avenge the reverse fixture and get ourselves a nice 3-1 win. But I do actually fancy Isak. I really want him to get a hat-trick in a game, and I think this is probably one of his better chances. So I'd like to see an Isak treble. And for Brighton, I probably agree with Nichol. Probably João Pedro.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else in the Brighton team.
Unless Pascal Gross wants to score one because he's in my fantasy team. So
either is that, isn't that? But yeah, 3-1 win.
Fantasy team.
Come on.
Joe, mate, your turn.
Oh God, I was going to say 3-1 and all, you know, but
you can't.
Fuck it, we different.
Go for the
4-0.
4-0.
Nah, 4-0. Gonna batter them. Let's have it. Isak 4 goals. Fuck off, Haaland. Come on.
You only say that you don't want to give a Brighton goal scorer, don't you?
Yeah. I said a dinger earlier. I thought he was pretty good. And Pedro. Nah, Emil Kraft at the back. Clean sheet. Sorted.
So you're going for the breaking the record of the most number of different goal scorers as well, because Kraft would do that, wouldn't he?
Oh no,
was Kraft scored this season?
Oh no, I was about to keep it clean.
No, it's got to be Kraft or Anderson.
I'll tell you what. Nah, I'm going to change it completely. I'm going to say Isak gets a hat trick and Anderson gets a 4th to break that record.
There you go.
That would be great.
Excellent. Yeah. That would be great.
Done.
Well, I was also going to say 3-1 actually. I thought it would be very similar.
This is great minds think alike, yeah. No way is it.
Yeah, it must be the shirt. It must be the shirt. No, I'm going to stick with 3-1. I think we're going to hit them pretty much early on. I think it's going to be 2-0 pretty quickly, pretty quick into the game. I'm thinking first 20 minutes we're going to be 2-0 up. Then we'll probably die down. They might get one back before. Well, I don't even think before the end of the first half, because I've been looking at the stats and they don't score in the first half in their away games at all. I think it's a pretty low percentage. So I think it'd be 2-0 half time, and then they're going to pull one back pretty soon after the second half starts. But then, yeah, we'll get one pretty late on in that second half to wrap it up. It might be a bit of a nervy second half that if it does be 2-1, but we'll wrap it up. Goal scorers, I mean, you cannot not pick Isak, can you? It's got to be an Isak hat trick just for that golden boot. And why not João Pedro? Just because he didn't sign for us when he was supposed to. We'll let him have one at St James's Park. Why not? Yeah, there we go. Does anybody want to add anything before we wrap this one up? Go on, Daryl. I knew you were going to say something, Daryl. I was looking at you when I said that.
I think with the way Brighton play, and we've done this to a few teams already this season, you only have to look at Spurs at home to see it. They like to play out at the back quite a lot in their build-up. So as long as we can maintain a high press, I think we'll have no problems whatsoever. We'll be able to get on top of them really quickly and be able to break them down and get in there.
Absolutely. I think we've said it already. I think, they start off quite slow and we can capitalize on that and hit them on the break, get them under pressure. If they can't perform for Bohemian Rhapsody, which would be fine. We will leave it there. There's your dad joke for you for the week. Yes, we'll leave that for Canny Chatter if we bring that back. Boys, we will leave it there. Thanks very much, everybody, for watching. Let us know in the comments below what your predictions are for this one. Let us know what your predictions are for the rest of the season as well. Do you think we're going to make that European spot? I think, is it 5th, 6th and 7th? depending on outcomes in the
Yeah.
cup. I think so. We're guaranteed
Yes.
8th,
Okay.
so I think we only need a few more points to guarantee ourselves 7th. So we're nearly there. We're in clutching distance. I think Chelsea are the ones that we need to keep an eye out, because Man U seem to be bottling it. You can clip this if I'm wrong, but it looks like they're falling apart, just like Old Trafford. So we'll see what happens. But let us know in the comments below what you think. Yeah, we'll save the Man U digs for next one, because that's the next game, shall we?
And trust me,
let us
they're
know in the-
coming.
yeah, they're coming. Got them lined up. I've got a note page full of no, we haven't. Let us know in the comments below what your predictions are as well, and let us know what you think of what we've said today about Brighton. If you're a Brighton fan, we come in peace. We're only having a bit of a laugh, but hopefully we've done you a bit of justice.
Don't kill me.
Let us know what your comments are as well, and let us know what you think the rest of your season is going to be like, and how you think your seasons went as well. We do appreciate all of your feedback. While you are down there, if you hit the subscribe button, that would be fantastic. And when that happens, you will also unlock the little notification bell. Hitting that bell will let you know when new videos go live on this channel. And give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this one, or a thumbs down if you haven't. But don't hit the thumbs down, hit the thumbs up. You've always enjoyed this one. If you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 a month. That gets you early access to videos like this one, as well as access to the Discord and the Telegram group. I'm sick of talking now, so we're going to wrap this one up. Boys, thanks very much for spending your Wednesday night with me. We'll look forward to this one. It's the last home game of the season. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Bye, lads.